One of the biggest problem most of the older DJs have with watching videos like this that you see on my channel are seeing how I'm doing virtually every single thing that they see other DJs do on the deck now being replicated on the keyboard. Yes, there's nothing really wrong with what you see here. The biggest problem such DJs have and trying to feel bad about and feel threatened by what they see on the keyboard is most of them don't have very good knowledge of how the controller they are using is working. So that faulty foundation already has placed them on a disadvantage side of trying to connect with what they see being imposed on these channels. So you see, there are level of knowledge that most of the time knowledge get updated as time goes on, and most of those knowledge of people who are using controller are outdated knowledge they are working with. So those outdated knowledge does not give you a in-depth guide on how this thing is being replicated on the keyboard. Even though the same thing you have on the controller is virtually the same thing I have here, the key thing you need to take note of is the controller is just an already made template that makes it possible for you to perform all those actions. Now, on this very case, you need a much more higher level of knowledge to do this same thing that I'm doing here. That is why it's not possible for you to do things randomly and expect it to give you the kind of result you see me do here. And this is where that knowledge gap comes into play. And for you to achieve that knowledge gap, that means there are a lot of higher level of knowledge you need to go for to be able to replicate exactly what you see me do at this particular stage. That is why I'm providing my resources available for people who are serious to go into it. So in getting that done, you need to understand that the same way you have buttons on your controller, the same way is these buttons are being configured to perform irrespective of the actions that we want them to perform. The same way you have a deck here is the same way you have a deck on your controller. And what exactly is the basic foundation of this deck? You see, the basic foundation of these decks are variable resistors. These crossfaders are variable resistors. These your cue points are variable capacitors. Your EQs are variable capacitors, and the rest of them. So I wouldn't go deep into it because I'm just trying to make you understand, because when you begin to understand these things, you begin to understand the level of energy and the kind of effort that is needed to get this thing done, even to this very level. So this is why most of them, because of that knowledge gap, they don't have that knowledge gap. So when they see videos like this, they think it's all about just pressing button. Trust me, you are going to damage your keyboard if you don't really understand what it takes to put up this thing. So this is a reality that most of the time people don't talk about it, and I'm trying to give you guys a detailed knowledge of how this is good. I have been into a lot of aspect of the engineering side of things that I don't really go much into it, that until you go to my social media handle, you go through some of my videos of about 3 years ago, you get to see how I have developed a couple of electronic appliances that make it possible for me to put out some of these things. It takes a high level of knowledge to do some of these things. They are not things you just sit down and begin to do nonsense on your keyboard. Now let's get to see a feel of it, to go further, to get to see how this thing work, which is pure replica of what you have on the controller. That is why it's possible for me to do this. Because of that high level of knowledge I have, that is what is possible for me to do some of these things. And they are not things that you can wake up and do overnight. Trust me, it's never going to work. And there are processes, and you have to go through the proper process, else trust me, you are going to be wasting your time. So that is why I'm putting up some of these things available for those who are serious about it. So, and just the way the controller is a full done for you template is the same thing with what I'm having here. It's already a done for you template that you plug and you proceed to the next step. So for some DJs, even after buying some of the most expensive controllers they can lay access on, they cannot do a lot of things that they watch me do here. So when they see such things, they get intimidated, they get frustrated. Yes, you are going to be frustrated because you have a very big knowledge gap between you and that equipment that you just acquire. So it's not possible for you to do some of these things you watch me do here unless you go back to that foundation. So let's have a feel of this little stuff that I have here. I'm going to start from the deck B now. Let's start from the beginning.
on Genius.
So you can see how simple and easy it looks at this very stage. It's possible for it to be very easy and simple for me because it's already a done for you template that a lot of processes has been put into getting it to this level. So which is the same thing that you have on your controller that makes it possible for you to do all the various kind of things that you see on the controller. So check it and get to see how beautiful these things work. And in getting to this level, you have to go through the processes and learn what it takes to get to this very level. You don't just buy a controller and begin to press random button on it and think it will give you the kind of result it will do. It will never do that, which is the same thing that comes up with this. So everything is fused, and which means you are going to be jumping through a lot of processes. That means you are not going to through the stress of getting this thing done from scratch, just like the controller. The people that produce that controller have already done all the hard work for you. What you need now is to get into the done for you template, which is the same thing I'm offering at this very level. So it saves you the whole stress, and when you begin to go through it and you begin to master it, you get to appreciate how these things work, and that is how the controller you are using is working too. I believe you learned something in this particular video. So see you guys in my next video. Thanks once again.